Today is finally the day. The Gundam Card Game has released with the starter decks, and with it, across this weekend, starter deck battles are going to be going on up and down the country and all around the world. And now we've had the official ratios of the cards that we're going to find in these starter decks confirmed. We're going to dive into the decks, see what they kind of do, see what kind of cards you can expect in the decks, and my rankings and picks for what you should take to the starter deck battles. My name is Ben Fitzpatrick. I'm a TCG caster, and that means I just love talking about them. So let's do that right now. But before we get into any of that information, if you have enjoyed this video, please do go ahead and drop a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notifications and comment down below the starter deck that you are most looking forward to. Also, down in the description, go ahead and drop me a follow over on X. We're close to that 350 mark. And again, I want to take this opportunity to say big thank you for the support on the shop battle details video. At the time of recording this, it's sitting on nearly 1,600 views with nearly 40 likes plus like 25 subscribers over the past 48, 72 hours. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. I cannot thank you enough for that support and for that love. I'm really looking forward to the Gundam card game, and now we get to finally say the game is out. Starter decks are actually in our hands, and now that we've got the ratios of the cards that are confirmed in the starter decks, that information has only just been released today at the time of recording this. You're going to see this video tomorrow, though, on Friday, when the game comes out. So we're going to go ahead and start talking about these starter decks. Forgive me if the screen's going to look a little bit weird here. I've got the Gundam Card Game official card list and website pulled up on the left-hand side so we can sort of click in and get a better view of the cards and what they say, because the list that they've given us, when you zoom in, I can show you, doesn't exactly kind of give the best condition to be able to read the text on the card. So hopefully you can understand sort of what's going on here. I'll do my best to explain everything as we go on. So we're going to kick it off where it's all going to begin. Starter deck number 1, Heroic Beginnings. This is going to be blue-white, and the kind of theme and style of this deck is going to be mid-range to control. It's a little bit more on the kind of control element. You've got a lot of AP reduction in here, you've got some bounce effects, and you've got that Soletta Mercury Pilot card for some value as well. But let's talk about the 2 LRs that are headlining this deck. As you can see, and as we surmised from the way that Bandai typically works with their starter decks for their card games, you're going to get 2 copies of each LR, each Legend Rare, in a single starter deck. So to get a full play set, you are going to, unfortunately, have to buy 2 copies. But that does mean that you're going to get 2 chances at some of those fantastic alternate art treatments that are going to be included in that bonus pack. So, starting off, we're going to go nice and simple with Gundam himself. Level 4, 3-cost unit, 3/4 looking for Amuro Ray as the link pair. Repair 2, so the keyword that heals damage, equivalent to the repair number at the end of the turn, so in this case 2. And then during pair, during your turn, all of your units get AP +1, which is really good for 2 reasons. One, it's during pair, so you don't have to worry or stress about finding Amuro Ray to link with the 3-cost level 4 Gundam to get that effect. And it's all your units, so it's not all units besides this one get that +1 AP boost. So before you even take into account the stats that the pilot is going to be giving the unit with that pair, Gundam is going to be a 4/4 for essentially 4 by the time that you get that 1-cost pilot paired onto the unit. So really solid card. Repair isn't a keyword that we've seen too much sort of exploration with so far, at least in the early days of the beta sets, and there was, I think, 1 card maybe with the repair keyword in the demo decks. Not included in this starter deck here, but I think it's included in one of the other ones. But a really cool keyword. keep your units around longer on the board. Obviously, if you can get a pilot on board to it, again, I'll mention something like Seleta Mercury or Kobayashi here that gives you that extra HP boost as opposed to sort of the attack point boost. Gives it an even bigger chance that it is going to stick around. Very, very big fan of this legend rare. The other LR is going to be Gundam Aerial Permit Score 6. This is a level 5 and a 4 cost unit, so on that top end of what you're going to be playing in this deck. You can see actually in the actual list itself on the my right hand side of the screen, probably be your right hand side of the screen as well, mirrors, awkward maths. It's one of only 2 units and 2 cards in the deck entirely actually that are capped out at level 5. So that and the Gundam NA form is what you're capping out at in terms of level. But it is a 4/4 looking for Seleta Mercury as its link pair. And when paired, so again, this is pairs, not links, you can choose one enemy unit that is level 5 or lower and give it a -3 attack point reduction. So this is where we get again into that little bit of more of a control style element with this blue-white deck. When you're reducing AP of a unit that's on your opponent's side of the board, then go ahead and swing into it with one of your other units, or you're at level 5, you find the link pair with Seleta Mercury, Gundam Aerial, and Seleta, swing in because it's a link pair, you'll get the resource restood as well because of the Seleta Mercury pilot effect, and clear the way of something without taking too much damage back on your unit. So really good ability here. Big fan of it, and a big fan of what this deck is kind of trying to signpost at the very least. It seems like in kind of early testing and early inclination, blue-white is going to be one of the best color pairings in the Gundam card game in the early days at the very least. But we'll have to wait and see when, obviously, GD01 releases how that pans out. We've not quite got every card from that first booster set that's been revealed so far. So watch this space. The format may very well change. We've got a couple of vanilla units in here as well, as you'd come to expect from a starter deck. Gun Cannon, Gundam Aerial Bit on Form, GM. Gun Tank is in here as well, the level 3 2 cost, which on deploy goes ahead, chooses an enemy unit with 2 or less HP and rests it, so sets itself ready to potentially attack into with something like the GM potentially if you're going second. Couple of opportunities for that there. You've got some blockers in the Demi Trainer and the Zawart there as well. And then we start getting into the things like the pilots and the bases that are going to be in this deck. So I've already spoken, waxed lyrical about Seleta Mercury, one of my favourite cards in the game so far, one of the best pilots in the game so far, I think. Amuro Ray, a really nice one as well. Again, level 4, 1 cost, similar to Seleta. +2/+1 as opposed to +1/+2, but when paired, forces an enemy unit with 5 or less HP to be rested. So could be really good in combination with that Gundam Aerial Permit Score 6. Get the pair, get the AP reduction, then you get the ability from Amuro Ray as well to rest that unit potentially if it's staying active and just go ahead and swing into it. So a really nice potential combination play you can go with there. Kobayashi is your pilot / command, one of 2 that are in this deck, which is a 3 of as well, which is very interesting. Off the top of my head, I don't think that's too typical from Bandai card game start decks. Certainly not from the One Piece card game, at the very least, off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've opened up a starter deck. But for the most part, you either get things in 4 ofs or in 2 ofs. So to give you quite a few different cards in 3 ofs here is definitely a little bit interesting. And I wonder what the sort of the design choice behind that is. But either way, your Kobayashi / command of Thoroughly Damaged. Kobayashi gives a +1 HP boost when paired, but Thoroughly Damaged is a main command which chooses a rested enemy unit and deals 1 damage to it. Kai's Resolve and Kai Shiden +1/+0, so similar to Kobayashi but just flipped. And then the command has that main ability to choose 1 friendly unit and recover 3 HP. So it looks like we're working with a lot of resting enemy units, clearing the way of them, using some other tools to be able to make sure that we're getting the favourable trades in those attacks as well, by either reducing AP, reducing HP, softening them up enough so that when we go ahead and swing into them, the unit will go down, those kinds of things. And that is finished off as well with Unforeseen Incident, the pure command card in this deck, which, if you checked out my last Gundam video as well, that shot battle video, is one of the promo cards that you are going to be able to earn at your local tournaments. Has main/action, choose one enemy unit and reduce its attack points by 3 this turn, and that is also a level 3 1 cost. Couple final cards that we need to talk about are going to be the base cards. White base will be very, very familiar to those of you that played in the demo events with the demo decks and played blue-white. White base, on deploy, obviously add a shield to your hand, like a lot of these base cards force you to do, but activate main once per turn, pay 2, and you can deploy one of the token units, depending on how many units you already have in play. That's a level 3 2 cost base, of course with 5 HP. Level 2 1 cost base is the Anesthesia School of Technology, also a 5 HP base. Activate main, rest this base, all friendly link units get AP +1 during this turn. So when you're trying to go for game, potentially, or go for a big board clear with a couple of link paired units, using this base gives you that extra little bit of push that you might potentially need. So very, very good deck overall. Heroic beginnings in blue-white, and definitely a very good start for these first 4 decks. Next up is going to be starter deck number 2, Wings of Advance, and this is going to be green and blue. And from what I've kind of looked at and gathered from the cards and the list that's in this deck, this seems to be kind of a mid-range to aggro style kind of deck. It's a little bit of a weirder one, because you've got a card, and I'll talk about this card before I go ahead and talk about the LRs here. You've got Wing Gundam Bird Mode in here, which is a card that I really, really love. Used it in my beta battle, which you might recall from me talking about it in a couple of my other Gundam videos so far. Level 3, 3 cost unit that on deploy allows you to place 1 EX resource. So if you go second, getting that EX resource, on turn 2, when you draw your resource for turn and you go up to level 3 with 3 resources available to use, you can use all 3, play this, burn the EX resource, and you don't lose this resource. So it's kind of mid-range aggro here, and I think very, very encouraging you for this reason to go second, to pick second, so you can pull off that combo, and so you can have that 1 level advantage for when you look to go ahead and try and race to your legend rares. And the first of which is one that was a fantastic powerhouse, again, in my beta battle event that I played in some time ago. This is Wing Gundam, level 6, 4 costs. So again, you're starting to sort of see the importance of why having that EX resource is really helpful in this deck, because level 6, as we saw in Starter Deck 1, that's 1 level higher than the cap in Starter Deck 1, the blue-white deck. So we're lowering a little bit higher here in that level cap, but 4 cost kind of helps balance it out, as well do the stat line and effects. So 4-5 already, not a bad stat line for a 4 cost. Breach 5, so if your opponent has a base card in the shield area that obviously isn't the EX base, it just destroys it in 1 hit if you attack an enemy unit and trigger that breach ability by destroying the unit that you swing into. And then that other line of text, this unit may choose an active enemy unit that is level 4 or lower as its attack target. And if you've got that hero Yui to create the link pair with, you have a huge unit that's going to be able to clear pretty much anything, at least in the starter deck card pool, in 1 swing, if you have Wing with Hero together on that same turn. It's a really, really great card, and a really, really great combination. It's one that I used, again, in my beta event to help me basically win 2 of my games. This was the one that I pulled 2 copies of. You got in the beta kit at least 1 copy of each of the 4 legend rares that were available. I got 2 copies of this because this was my box topper. So I was immediately saying, yep, I'm in green. Let me find my Hero Yui pilots. Let me race to level 6 and into this Wing Gundam. But very, very nice card and very, very strong if you find that link pair. Still good if you don't find the link pair. The only issue is then obviously you do have your opponent a chance to respond to that on 1 turn. But they need to respond to it. Otherwise, they're going to be losing shields very, very quickly. The other one is an interesting card. This is Toll Geese, level 5, 4 cost, 4/4, looking for Zex Merkis as its link pair pilot. Activate main once per turn, pay 4 resources, and set this unit as active. Very, very interesting. This is the first instance of the Gundam card game that we're seeing of units being able to reactivate themselves. So we've swung already. You can then pay this 4 resources to set it as active and then swing again. So very, very interesting that we're seeing this here in set 1, or in sort of set 0 here, if you're calling this with the starter decks of the Gundam card game. There's a card at the moment in the One Piece card game that is Roronoa Zoro, a 9-cost secret rare that allows you to do a similar thing, slightly smaller cost that you have to pay for it, and you have the opportunity to attack 3 times with it, because if you're not familiar with One Piece at all, Zoro is a samurai, or a samurai. If you're not familiar with One Piece in general, Roronoa Zoro is a katana user that uses 3 swords, and his 3 sword style. It's kind of his technique and his trademark amongst the One Piece world. So can swing 3 times as kind of flavor here. So seeing Tall Geese as a double attacker here, basically, is really, really nice. 4 resources is a little bit expensive for it, but I suppose you've got nothing else to do, or if you can sort of whittle your opponent down with this more sort of aggro slant and aggro lean in this starter deck, you could be on your way to a winner. Again, a couple of vanillas in here. We've got Gundam Sandrock, who's a 4/3 for 2 at level 4, and then the Maganak, 3/2 for 2 at level 2. Very, very nice. Again, we're looking at that kind of more aggressive stat line here. We've got Gundam Heavy Arms in here as well, the other level 5 unit in the deck. 3 cost, 3/4, looking for Trower Barton as its link pair, but during pair, so doesn't have to be that Barton pilot. During your turn, when this unit destroys an enemy with battle damage, you ping all enemy units that are level 3 or lower for 1 damage. And in a starter deck field, there's going to be a lot of units that are going to be level 3 or lower. So you're going to be dealing those damage pings quite often if you can find just a pair, just a pilot onto this unit. So again, very, very nice, going with that kind of mid-range to aggro style. Bit mid-rangey in the fact that you're still kind of working away against your opponent's board, but aggro in the sense of you're doing it quite quickly here. You've got some blockers in the deck as well. You've got Ares and Tragos as your 2 blockers, and then we get into the pilots. Hero Yui, we'll have seen already a lot of, level 4 1 cost, 2/1, but during link, an extra +1/+1. Zex Merkis, we've not seen this one before, a level 5 pilot, is very, very odd. 1 cost though, so not too expensive to play. +2/+1, and during link, during your turn, when this unit destroys an enemy with battle damage, you draw 1 card. Card draw very, very strong in any card game, and if you're looking at it maybe pairing with that Tall Geese, setting it as active, you could go ahead and get yourself multiple instances of card draw with this link ability. It's not a once per turn, remember that. So a couple of opportunities to net yourself some healthy card advantage in that mid to late game. We've then got Trower Barton, along with Simultaneous Fire, one of the command/pilot cards. Spartan, just a +1/+1 vanilla pilot, but the command simultaneous fire is a main ability. Choose one of your units. It gains breach 3. So, again, potentially going back to that tall geese, have tall geese on the board, link pair it with Merquise, then simultaneous fire, attack twice with breach 3 because it's during the turn. That sounds very, very nice and a very, very fun closer, if I do say so myself. Wouldn't be a mid-range deck, though, without a little bit of protection, and that comes in the force of Peaceful Timbre, one of my favourite command cards that I have used so far in the Gundam card game, because this is an action command. And remember, commands have 2 different windows when they can activate. We've spoken a lot and we've seen a lot of main commands here, so ones that can activate during your turn. Action, however, is that small little window of opportunity that you're going to get to respond when your opponent declares an attack with a unit. And the action for Peaceful Timbre essentially says, your level 4 or lower unit that's trying to attack into my shield area, it's not going to do anything, because my shield area can't receive damage from enemy units that are level 4 or lower. Fantastic card. A complete stopper to an attack that could potentially be trying to set up for lethal, potentially, like with that tall geese if you're playing in the mirror match, or anything else possibly for about 80% of the cards that are going to be in the pool. Very, very good. Very, very good. You'll more often than not be playing this for the Timbre command and not for the Quattro Rebeba winner here, because its link pair is the Sandrock. So you're looking at potentially a 5/4 link paired unit, which isn't bad. 5/4 for 3, if you're going really, really aggressive, not bad at all. But that Peaceful Timbre is just so good. It's just so, so good and so, so versatile. Our complete command here in this deck is going to be Siege Ploy, level 3, 1 cost. Of course, has Burst, which is the mechanic that activates when you flip it from your shield area. And main/action, choose one enemy unit with 5 HP or less and rest it. So there's that more mid-rangey kind of approach to the deck. A little bit more control, a little bit more slowdown. Finally, the 2 bases in this deck. St. Gabriel Institute was a card that was available in the beta pool. Deploy, add one of your shields to hand, and then scry. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck and return 1 to the top and 1 to the bottom. So it's kind of a weird scry if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering. Scry is a keyword that literally lets you do that. Look at a certain amount of cards, but allows you to either put them at the top or bottom here, and it's all of those cards, or you get like the flexibility. Here, you have to put 1 to the top and 1 to the bottom. Which is interesting, actually, because quite a lot of Bandai card games, when you have abilities like this, give you the option to put things to the top or bottom. This text will usually read up to 1 to the top and up to 1 to the bottom. So it's really interesting that they've decided to just statically say, nope, 1 card has to go to the top and 1 card has to go to the bottom. I'm undecided on it at the moment. I was going to say I'm a fan, but I took a moment of pause there. I'm undecided on that, but the fact that it only happens once, it's a deploy effect, and then you just get the 5 HP, that's what you're really playing this for and what you're really holding on to this for. Finally, you've got the blue base, which is the Corsica base, level 3, 3 cost. Deploy, add one of your shields to hand. Then, if it is your turn, you get a Tall Geese token, which is a 4/2 token, by the way. That's huge. But if it is your turn and a card with Corsica base in its card name is in your trash, so if you've already burned through a Corsica base, you get 2 1/1s. So very, very interesting dual modes here. That ability to get a 4/2 token is really, really nice. And it comes in active as well. It doesn't specify that it comes in rested or anything like that. So is forcing your opponent to answer it if they don't want to get smacked in the face for 4. Really, really nice. I think this is probably the better of the 2 bases in this deck. And then, of course, there's the artwork for your Leo token. And there's the artwork for your Tall Geese token. So, blue-green, interesting color combination, but one that's certainly not bad. There's some cool hitters in here, and some really cool combination plays that you can work on for sure. So, this is a starter deck that I wouldn't necessarily sleep on. For starter deck 3, it's going to be all go, go, go. All thrusters, no brake engines. It's Zeon's Rush, red, green, and the clue is in the name of the starter deck. This is pure aggro. Little level units, little cost units, go wide, go quickly, win the game before your opponent even has a chance to play a LR. Speaking of LRs, let's talk about them. The first of the two is, again, another level 6 LR in the starter deck pool. 5 cost. This is the Senaju 5/4, which during pair gains high maneuver, so unblockable. And during your turn, when this unit destroys an enemy shield area card with battle damage, you can burn an enemy unit for 2 damage. So already with that ability, you can see, and the combination there with high maneuver, this is just, I'm going to go straight for your shield area. I don't care what you're putting down on your battle area. You need to worry about stopping my battle area before things get too out of hand. And full frontal is the pilot that we are looking for here, which is, you can just see there in the deck list, a level 6 pilot, which is really, really interesting that we've got level 6 pilots to pair with that Senaju here. Of course, I'm not quite talking about the card ratios too much here in the deck lists at the moment. You can see them still on the screen. They are relatively the same. You're getting sort of 4 ofs of a few vanillas, 3 ofs of a couple of the cards with sort of keywords on them. Your LRs are 2 ofs, and it looks like your primary command is a 2 of as well. And that's kind of the general theme of how these starter decks go. Let's now quickly jump back and talk about the other LR in this deck, a level 3 2 cost, which I think is the lowest level of an LR in the starter deck card pool. It's Char's Zaku 2. It's a 3/2 that, of course, is looking for Char Aznable as the link pair. When it's destroyed, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You may reveal a Zeon or Neo Zeon unit card among them and add it to your hand. Return the remaining cards randomly to the bottom of your deck. If you have played any other Bandai card games in the past, particularly the One Piece card game, you will know how important top 3 or top 5 searches are to the consistency of your deck. The fact that this activates when it is destroyed is really, really interesting because it forces your opponent into this really weird game of chicken. It's either I keep punching you in the face for 3 every turn, or I punch one of your units in the face for 3 and trigger the destroyed ability myself, or you trigger this destroyed ability for me by clearing the way of it. It's a really, really interesting card, a really, really cool one, I think, especially in an aggro deck. When there's not too much bounce in the starter deck card pool, at least not from memory, not that I remember we've gone through, this is really, really nice. And it being level 3 as well can be really, really easy and really, really quick to get that link pair with Char. We'll get to Char and the pilots in just a second. Some of the other units that are in this deck, we've got Angelo's Gira Zulu, level 4 3 cost, it's a 3/3, of course looking for Angelo Salpa as the link pair pilot. Activate main, support 2, so rest this unit and grant another friendly unit plus 2 AP. The plus amount is equal to that support keyword value. Again, really, really helpful, really, really nice to boost up one of your other units, try and go for that big game-winning swing, something like maybe that Senaju, once you've given it high maneuver with pair. Some vanillas in Gira Zulu in the Orcasi sleeves. Gazadi is another support outlet, another support 2 granter at level 2 with 2 cost. Zaku 1, a level 1 1 cost, so an immediate turn 1 play. Zaku 2, level 2 1 cost, plus 1, 1, 2, but on attack is a 3/2 during the turn, gets +2 attack points, very, very nice. The Goof, one that the green-red demo deck players will be familiar with, 3 cost level 3, 2/3 on deploy, gets you a Rested Zaku 2 token, which is just a 1/1. And then we get into the pilot. So starting off with full frontal, the one that link pairs with the Sanaju. Level 6, as we pointed out earlier, 1 cost, +2/+2 to its stat line. So if you're link pairing this with Sanaju, it's a 7/6, and has the ability, when paired, you may deploy 1 Neo Zeon/Zeon unit card that is level 4 or lower from your hand. And of course, it comes in active. So very, very nice here. Of course, it's a when paired ability, so it doesn't have to go on to the Sanaju for this ability to trigger. The only slight drawback with that is that it's level 6, so you can't get it out into play as quickly as you would like, but still a very, very strong card. Cards that allow you to cheat other units into play along with them, always going to be very, very strong in any card game, and the stat boost that it grants, that even +2/+2, very, very nice indeed. Char as Enable, again, a lot of the demo deck players will be familiar with this card. Level 3, 1 cost, +1/+1. On attack during this turn, the unit gets +1 AP, and if it's a link unit, so with the Char Zaku 2 LR, for example, it gains high maneuver, so unblockable pressure you could put really, really early on to your opponent here if you've got that Char Zaku 2 LR. The 2 command/pilot hybrid cards in this deck, we have Indignation/Angelo Salpa, which is the +1 AP vanilla pilot in this deck. Level 2, 1 cost, but the command Indignation, main/action, choose 1 friendly unit. It gets a +AP boost of 2 during this turn, so either a main ability to boost your unit up to swing to clear a base card potentially, or a unit on your opponent's side of the board, or an action card and a combat trick if your unit goes ahead and it's attacked into. So if your unit is attacked into and the AP isn't quite high enough to be able to take the trade, as in defeat the unit that your opponent is using to attack, use this Indignation, give it +AP2, and get over the line in the trade. Very, very nice combat trick, as is Close Combat. This is the pure command card in this deck. Level 2, 2 cost, activate main or action, choose 1 enemy unit, deal 2 damage to it. So just burn a unit for 2, either during your turn, if there's a blocker out in the way and you can't give yourself high maneuver for whatever reason, or action, before the damage resolves, action, deal 2 damage to a unit, and then let your base AP go ahead and clear the way of it. The other command/pilot hybrid card in this starter deck is the Blue Giant, along with Ramba Rao. Level 4, 1 cost, +1/+1. It's an action command. Choose 1 friendly unit. It can't receive battle damage from enemy units with 2 or less AP during this battle. So a little bit similar to Peaceful Timbre in the sense that this is kind of a damage prevention combat trick here, but it's a little bit more limited. 2 or less AP is going to be a little bit harder to try and kind of navigate or coerce your opponent into swinging with here. If you're comparing the two, Peaceful Timbre, definitely a more versatile command, but certainly not a bad one by any stretch of the imagination, especially if your opponent's just trying to fling a damage into either one of these small vanillas to clear it out of the way because you've got game presented on board, or you want the Char Zaku 2 to stay around for whatever reason, again because you might have the Char pilot in your hand for next turn to then boost up and swing with to try and clear the way of a 5 HP base card. Couple of different ways that we could potentially use this. Speaking of those 5 HP base cards, of course, like the other starter decks, we get 2 different ones. The Rolula, level 3, 2 cost, 5 HP base, add one of your shields to hand on deploy, and then choose one enemy unit with 5 or less AP and deal the damage to it. Nice and simple, nice and easy. And then the other one is going to be the Foul Mail, level 3, 2 cost, on deploy, grab a shield to hand, then if it is your turn, you get a Rested Chazaku 2 token. That's an AP3 token here. So this one a little bit more of the aggressive, the pure go fast aggro base here. The other one, the red one, I'm not going to try and tongue twist in the name again and butcher it, a little bit more of the reserved one. But as we say, Zeon's Rush, red-green, it is going to be the premier aggro combination in the Gundam card game to start off with, and is definitely one of the stronger decks that we are seeing in this first wave. Aggro is always great in the early days of a card game, and it's no exception for Starter Deck 3. Last but certainly not least is Starter Deck 4 Seed Strike, which is a red-white deck. A really interesting combination of colours here. You'll see what I mean. Let's talk about the LRs first. We've got Elios. Last but certainly not least, we have Starter Deck 4, which is Seed Strike in red and white. A really unique combination. Last but certainly not least, we have Starter Deck 4, which is Seed Strike, red and white, which is a really unique combination of colours, and you'll see what I mean. Let's look at the LRs first, starting with Ale Strike Gundam. This is a level 5 4 cost, 4/4 with a blocker, and when paired with a level 4 or higher pilot, spoiler alert, 2 of your pilots are level 4, you can choose one enemy unit with 4 or less HP and return it to its owner's hands. We were talking about there's not being too much bounce in the starter deck card pool to get around the Chazaku 2 from the Rush deck. This is one of the few cards that can do it. However, you've got to potentially wait 2 levels before you get to that point. And by that point, that Chazaku 2 might have already done 6 AP's worth of damage across 2 turns, depending on the way that the turn structure has gone. Of course, also pilots and links with Kira Yamato, but having a LR with blocker is really, really interesting, and this was one of the 4 LRs that were a part of the beta card pool representing white, and it's mostly unique when you pair it with the red LR in this deck. Aegis Gundam, level 4, 3 cost, 4/3, links with Afron Zala's pilot. On attack, if this unit has 5 or more AP, you can choose one enemy unit that is level 5 or higher and deal 3 damage to it. So you've got this 4/3 that links with Afron Zala at level 4, but you have to wait a level, or you wait for your opponent to get to a level, before you can get the attack ability off. It's really, really interesting. It's really, really sort of a mishmash of different things. You've got obviously the more kind of defensive, reserved aspect of white. And then you've got this red LR here, which is, as we've established with the Zeon Rush deck, a little bit more kind of aggressive, a little bit more forceful, with this sort of quasi-control effect that's going on as well here. It's really, really weird kind of combination. And that continues on when you look at some of the other units in this deck. Of course, again, you've got your vanillas here, Mobius Zero, Strike Dagger, Jin in here as well. You've got Strike Gundam, a level 4 2 cost that on deploy loots you 1, draw 1, then discard a card. So great value there. But waiting till level 4 to get that value, if you're against Zeon Rush, for example, you're possibly just going to get rushed out by that point for you before you even get an opportunity to find some of those key pieces. Find your LRs, find your matching pilots if you've already got the LR, and vice versa. You've then got the Mobius, your level 1 cost blocker. You've got Aegis Gundam MA mode, which has Breach 3. Okay, a little bit more on the aggressive side there. You've then got the Miguel's Jin, Level 2 cost, 3/1 that pairs with Miguel Ayman, or link pairs I should say with Miguel Ayman. During pair when destroyed, if you have another link unit in play, draw 1. It's this really weird kind of hybrid of like value engine while still trying to be a little bit aggressive, while still trying to be a little bit reserved. It doesn't really know what it like purely wants to do. It kind of wants to sit like right on the fence, right in that true mid-range kind of place. Then we get to the pilots here. So your 2 pure pilots are, of course, Kira, level 4 1 cost, +2/+1. On attack, choose an enemy unit. It gets an AP reduction of 2 during the battle. So not during the turn like some other pilots, just during the battle. And then Athranzala, which is +1/+2. And when linked, during this turn, this unit may choose an active enemy unit that is level 5 or lower as its attack target. But it has to be a link for this ability to work. So you've got a very, very small window to potentially get that ability to activate. Your 2 hybrid pilots in here, those command/pilot cards, you've got Mulaflaga with Hawk of Endymion. Mulaflaga being the vanilla attack boosting pilot, and the command Hawk of Endymion at level 2 1 cost, being main and action. Choose one enemy unit with 3 or less HP, bounce it back to its owner's hand. So again, another one of those potential cards that could look to counter the Char's Zaku 2 LR in the green-red deck. And then you've got the Magic Bullet of Dusk, along with Miguel Ayman, who is the vanilla HP boosting pilot. But the Magic Bullet of Dust, level 3 1 cost, again main or action, choose one friendly unit that is level 2 or lower. It gets First Strike during this turn. And First Strike is exactly what it says on the tin, familiar to a lot of people that play Magic the Gathering perhaps. While this unit attacks, it deals damage before the enemy unit. So there is your slight difference between First Strike in Gundam and First Strike in Magic the Gathering, is that First Strike damage in Magic happens at any time, whether you attack or you block. Here, First Strike only activates when you are attacking. So again, another kind of more board mitigation sort of card that we're looking at here. So this looks like it is more of a mid-range with a slight maybe control sort of lean, as opposed to that mid-range aggro that we were looking at in one of the other decks earlier on. Which is a really, really interesting place to be with red and white, because you've got so many red cards in here, and red typically in just card games in general, but particularly Bandai card games, is a very aggressive sort of colour. In One Piece card game, for example, the first mono-red leader was Roronoa Zoro, a very aggressive leader. You also had in that first set red-green Trafalgar Law, which was aggressive combo-style deck. I'm going to flood the board with some smaller characters out first, and then use my leader ability to bounce them around and turn them into bigger characters, and get some really, really strong advantage height-wise for very, very little cost implementation. So it's a really, really interesting deck that we've got as a starter deck as well. You've also got this command here, your just plain command of Striker Pack, level 4 2 cost with Burst. If you have no Earth Alliance tokens in play, deploy a 3/3 blocker token. So that is very, very different in terms of the burst mechanics that we're used to seeing. We typically, when we see burst on a card, it's usually deploy this card, activate this main ability, or add this card to hand. Here, this is a solely unique burst ability that is getting activated if this card is flipped face up out of the shield area. If you're playing it though just as the command, activate main. If you have no Earth Alliance unit tokens in play, so it's only checking for tokens, deploy a Sword Strike Gundam blocker, which is a 4/2, or a Launcher Strike Gundam token, which is a 2/4, and both of which have blocker. So this is kind of a walls up deck at the start of the game, and then into that mid and late game, you start playing that kind of Aegis Gundam LR, the MA mode as well, start attaching some of those pilots to continue to get a little bit of pressure going. Then we'll talk about the bases quickly. We've got the Archangel, level 3-1 cost, again, 5 HP on the base. Generally looks like that's where the base level, see what I did there, is for these base cards. When you deploy, add one of your shields to hand. Again, a very similar mechanic that we're seeing from these bases. Activate main once per turn. 2 cost, so 2 resources, you have to pay for this. Choose one friendly unit with blocker, set it as active, and it can't attack during this turn. So what you're looking for here is to have something like your Ailstrike Gundam out on the board, because it's got a blocker. Swing with it, then pay 2 for the Archangel effect, reactivate it, and even though it can't attack during this turn, you still got it re-readied as that blocker for your opponent's turn. Blockers can only be activated, remember, if the unit is active. You can't have a blocker rested and then declare it as a blocker when your opponent decides to go and attack into this. I really, really like this base. I think this is really, really cool and pairs really nicely, as we said, with the Ailstrike Gundam, but also with the Striker Pack command that we've just seen, being able to generate either a 4-2 or a 2-4 blocker token. So depending on what stage of the game you're at, you could potentially chuck down this Archangel base, play the Striker Pack on the next turn, getting yourself a 4-2, depending on the outlay of the board. If you're in control, get the 4-2 on board so that you can swing high with it on the next turn. Or if things are looking a little bit cagey, if you're against, for example, I'll keep coming back to it, red-green, because I feel like we're going to see a lot of red-green in these starter deck events. You can choose the 2-4, swing with the 2-4 next turn, then use Archangel's ability and reactivate it, ready to jump in the way of something on your opponent's next turn. I think this is a really, really cool base, and I hope sees a little bit more support and synergy as GD01 launches in a couple of weeks' time. Final card that we have to talk about, yes, I know it's sad, final new card and final card we're going to speak about quickly in this deck is the Vesalius, level 3-1 cost, 0-5, activate main after, of course, deploying it and adding a shield card to hand, rest this base, choose a friendly unit, it gets +1 AP during this turn. So very similar to one of the other bases that we saw. I think it was the white base, the school, that gave you, I think it was a +2 AP boost on rest. This gives you a +1 boost during the turn. So not bad. We don't mind bases that have a little bit more sort of versatility once they're in that shield area or in that base zone. If they just sort of sit there, have their deploy effect, and then just sort of sit there for the sake of it, that's not bad. But if we can get more mileage out of our base, we can get more usage out of it like we can with the 2 in this deck and some of the other in the starter deck card pool, even better for it. So those are all 4 of the starter decks for the Gundam card game that are coming out literally today as this video goes live. And of course, on the right hand side of your screen, you've had all of the ratios available on display for them as well. So then the $1 million question is, how do these stack up against each other? And what order would I potentially look to rank them in if you were going to be picking one for your starter deck event? Now, it's important to mention at this point that the prizing for the starter deck event that you get, the participation of the 2 promos and the pack of resource sleeves, the pack of 10 sleeves that you're going to get, there is no winner's version of these promos or sleeves. It's just the participation pack that you are going to be getting. Although, depending on your local game store, they may offer up some extra prizes for the winner. And even if there are any extra prizes that you're fighting for, you still want to be crowned the first Gundam winner of a local event when the game launches. So, this is what I would rank them as in terms of order. Last place, I think, probably has to go to Seed Strike, to ST04. It's a cool deck, it's a cool concept, but I'm not quite sure that all the pieces are quite there. When you're stacking them up against the other decks that are out there, I think it's kind of a little bit sort of a jumble, a little bit of a mishmash, and if you get sort of the wrong pieces at the wrong time, you're going to be punished very, very quickly, especially if decks 1 and 2 that are going to be in my ranking are going to be most prevalent. Third, I'd give to Wings of Advance, which is ST02, the green and blue deck. Again, really, really cool concept. I like the kind of recursion feature of the Wing Gundam, being able to take second, get the X resource on your second turn when you draw up to 3 resources, play the wing, not lose the EX resource, and go up to level 4 on the turn afterwards, as opposed to dropping down and staying at level 3. And that Tall Geese as well, being able to attack twice in a turn. Very, very cool. But again, it's going to be about whether you're going to be afforded that kind of time. And with very few blockers in the deck, only the Tragos and the Ares as your blockers in that deck, you might get overrun very, very quickly, or those blockers might be dealt with very, very easily, because they're both only 1 HP blockers in the list. So that would be where I put third place. Second and first will kind of interchange, depending on the kind of outlook that you're seeing at your event. Second place, I would potentially give to Zeon's Rush. There's not too much in it, but I think second place goes to Zeon's Rush here, the red-green aggro deck. Aggro is always going to be, as I said during the actual deck profile, very, very good in a sealed environment and in an early sort of stage of a game, because the strategy is simple. I'm just going to swing quickly, swing with a load of different things, and overwhelm you. The issue is, as it is with any aggro deck, is at what point do you potentially run out of steam? And this deck could potentially have the possibility to run out of steam. You've got 2 different units in there that are support units, so you're not even necessarily going to be attacking with them because you have to rest them to activate that support keyword. You might ignore support entirely. You might just go straight, base is the place, I'm just going to swing, destroy all your shield cards before you can even get to level 5 or 6, and even think about getting your LRs out on the board. That is a legitimate play route and strategy with this deck. I just think that when you're losing 2 of those slots to that support ability, you could be in a little bit of trouble. And if you're in the mirror match, there's no blockers in that deck. So whoever gets the fastest start and the most consistent start is going to be way, way further ahead than the player who doesn't, because you're not going to have too many ways to stop it. The deck that I'm certainly going to be looking to take, and I think that is going to be the one that is going to see a lot of success in this event and then beyond in terms of the color pairing, is going to be ST01. It's going to be Heroic Beginnings, it's going to be blue and white. It's already been getting a bit of traction and a good track record in the early initial stages of full competitive testing and full constructed testing. But this deck has everything, man. It's got blockers, it's got the ability to draw when it's paired with a white-based team pilot, that Gundam MA form. You've got the Gundam, LR, which has the Repair 2. You've got the Aerial that can reduce AP and link pair with Soletta Mercury, as I continue to say, one of the best pilots in the game, I think, right now. You've got just so much in this deck. You've got healing as well with Kai's Resolve. You've got some really, really great stuff in this deck. So I think that from an all-rounded perspective, Heroic Beginnings is going to be the one that will grant you the most potential success. But with a small asterisk to that, and as I said before, ranks 1 and 2 could potentially chop and change. If you're seeing a lot of those more mid-rangey control style decks, like Heroic Beginnings is, then Zeon's Rush could be the way to go. Aggro is typically the way to beat control if you can get that aggro going quickly before the lock sets in. Vice versa though, if you're seeing a lot of those aggro decks, if you're seeing a lot of those sort of weenie units running about with 1 or 2 HP available to them on their base kit, control is the way to go to try and slow them down potentially. So they're all going to interact really nicely, it's all going to be interchangeable, and of course I will have footage of all of the starter decks being opened with those base packs, hoping, praying that we pull a god deck on camera. That would be incredible. And filming all of the action from my starter deck battle, which at the time that this video goes live, I will be just a couple of hours away from playing. So very, very exciting times. Gundam Card Game is finally fully in our hands with the starter decks. And now it is over to you. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Which starter deck did you end up taking if you've already played your event by the time you've watched this video? If you haven't, what deck did you play, or are you looking to potentially play? And of course, edit that comment, leave a follow-up as well with how you went. I'd love to see how players are getting on in the early stages of this game. If you have enjoyed the video as well, be sure to drop a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already for more Gundam Card Game and other TCG related content, and click that notification bell as well so you do not miss an upload. That is going to end the video for today then. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.